412-1152. Call Tommy Boyds now. 0171 412 1152.
That's the number, and the lines are open until 10 o'clock when it's Steve Allen. And ahead of his usual visit to tell you what he's got lined up for you, I can tell you that the very latest health inventions will be unveiled when he's joined by Dr. Rob Hicks. And Diane Burstein's back. So we'll be taking with Steve and Diane another trip around secret London. 0171 412 1152. If you've been here since 6 o'clock this morning, we kicked the show off by talking about a new ride which has just been opened at the Trocadero in Piccadilly. It takes about 15 minutes. It costs $5.95 and it gives you an opportunity to find out a little bit about what it might have been like to be James Bond, which I think would be fantastic, wouldn't it? We've argued about smoking as well in the light of some research that's been done in New Zealand, which anti-smokers are saying proves that you are 82% more likely to suffer from a stroke if you have been subjected to relentless passive smoking. We talked to Clive Bates, as we do, from Ash, who said this is what we've been saying all along. This is yet another reason to clamp down on smoking. And we also spoke to Martin Ball from the pro-smokers campaign group Forest, who said, as his organisation tends to do when new medical research comes to light, that they are not certain yet whether the results of this investigation can be said to have been proved. We talked to Anne Widdicombe just after 8:05 about recent events in Dover. And the one grain of pure common sense I caught on a local TV news programme yesterday from somebody saying, well, that's what happens at fairgrounds. If a fairground hadn't descended on Dover, in all probability, though the tension is there, and though the potential for violence may be there, as it is wherever you get youngsters who have been lured, as in the case of some young residents of Dover, to racist ideas, and who are sharing a piece of urban territory, essentially urban territory, with a group of immigrants or refugees, or in this case, asylum seekers, depending on who you want to talk to, you are going to get trouble. But what you always need is a flashpoint for the trouble. And I can't think of a more likely flashpoint for trouble between gangs of youths than a travelling fairground. Although, for some reason, it used to be Worthing when I was a boy. Do you remember the scooters? Whatever happened to Joe Brown? 0171 412 1152. Let's go to Sandy, who's called from Stockwell. Sandy, good morning. You're on LBC Breakfast.
Good morning, Tommy.
Sandy.
About these asylum seekers.
Yeah.
Why is it that they come to all these other countries where they're supposed to stay to the first country they come to get to Britain? I saw in the media and read in the papers where people in France, certain people in France, were paying their fare on the Eurostar to come here.
Where did you see that, Sandy?
This has got to be all wrong.
If it's true. Where did you see that?
It was on the news.
Whereabouts?
On the TV news.
Which television news?
ITV, a couple of nights ago.
What time was that?
In the 6 o'clock.
And I see. And ITN told you that... No, not ITN, your local news.
Yeah, and it was also in my paper.
Right. That some people are putting refugees onto the Eurostar trip. I suppose they've got to get here somehow, haven't they?
Yeah, but they're supposed to stay in France, supposed to stay at the first country they come to. They come through Germany and France.
Well, it doesn't quite work like that.
To here.
It doesn't quite work like that.
I think it's because we are a soft touch, and that's it. I'll tell you what's going to happen.
Well, if we're a soft touch, what are the Germans then? Because they've taken six times as many.
Well, I think what's going to happen here... If we're
wait a second, Sandy. Wait a second. Let's move through it one bit at a time. What figures do you have that show that we take more refugees than any other country, and ergo we're a soft touch?
But we're a much smaller country, Tom.
No, I'm asking you what it is that gives you, that supports your opinion that we are a soft touch.
Because they get rehomed here, they get benefits.
Okay, so you don't actually have any concrete evidence to support your belief. That's fair. Plenty of us have opinions that we can't verify.
No, but I think what's going to happen here, Tommy, before very long, people have to work and pay tax. There's going to be a backlash. They're not going to stand for them to keep these people on welfare.
These people?
Yeah, these asylum seekers.
Who are not people like us?
And that's how I feel.
Who are not people like us?
Pardon?
Who are not people like us.
How do you mean not people like us?
Well, I always wonder about the phrase, these people.
The asylum seekers.
Yes, who are not people like us.
Because a lot of them are not asylum seekers at all. They've come from a country where there is no problems.
Understood. And what would you do if you were thrown out of Britain? Where would you go?
I was born and bred here, Tommy.
No, but if you were thrown out of Britain, where would you go?
Well, you couldn't go to Australia, you couldn't go to New Zealand.
Where would you go? Well, what would you do?
No place I could go, is there, Tommy?
No, but you're exactly.
I mean, no other country in the world is as stupid.
No,
I'm telling you now.
I'm asking you what you would do if you were thrown out of this country. I think that is about as good an answer as Sandy could give that very good question. So why don't you answer it? I'm going to answer it. I would, first of all, worry about my family. So if for some reason, supposing this country were suddenly supposing you were to wake up and this country were ruled by a militaristic regime who targeted you, whoever you are, as a political enemy and told you that if you didn't leave the country now, you would be interred with God knows what consequences. So what would you do? I'd gather up my family and gather up what financial resources I thought I might be able to use abroad. Well, I know I've asked myself a question I can't answer. Can you? 0171 412 1152. You're listening to LBC Breakfast.
Get involved. Get involved. Call LBC now. 0171 412 1152. LBC 1152 AM. The Voice of London.
Then I suppose if you suddenly discovered that you had to leave the country in a hurry, you would wonder in which countries do you have friends or relatives who you could first turn to, who would support you? And were you able to get there by means which the new government, the new extreme regime would permit you to use? Because they're not going to permit you to use the airport, and not going to permit you to buy an airline ticket. How on earth are you going to get out of this country of ours? It's the one circumstance where actually you're better off living in a landlocked country if you suddenly discover that the political climate is one that's impossible for you and your family. 0171 412 1152. Eileen calls from Benfleet. Eileen, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Tommy, I think that you take a very patronising attitude towards people. Your attitude is that you know best. You know everything. I mean, when that woman said to you that it was on the news, and in what time? When it was on the news, and if you missed it, then that's down to you, dear. I think that you are one of the biggest liberals on the radio.
You couldn't possibly flatter me more, Eileen.
I'm not flattering you, Tommy.
You certainly are.
You're the biggest bore. I never listened to your programme. It's unfortunate that you switched on this morning.
Well, you're only interested in personalities. I'm interested in issues and politics,
no,
Eileen.
Not.
That's your problem.
You're not.
You try answering the question, then. You try answering the question, because the woman that you're ringing to defend couldn't even try to answer the question because it never entered her mind.
You're like that with everybody.
She was the one who put the phone down.
Unless people have your...
I'm not interested in talking about me, Eileen. I'm interested in talking about refugees. Why aren't you?
Well, why should I worry? I'm paying for them, are you?
So you're not worried about the refugees?
No, I'm not, because there's too many here, and you must be living in an area where you aren't bothered with them. I mean, when you're children, and it's obvious by the way your little boy spoke on the radio one morning, your little boy must be going to a private school because he speaks so well. Unless it affects you, Tommy, you're really not. You're one of these bleeding heart liberals. You really should be on the same wavelength as Claude Murray. I mean, you've got too many people in this country that are speaking on behalf of the immigrants. They're not speaking on behalf of the people that are suffering. There are people in this country that could do with help, and unfortunately they're not getting it. We're getting overlooked. Now, I've had my say. I'm not going to put the phone down, Tommy. Thank you very much.
In that case, then, perhaps you'd like to answer a question.
All right, I'll answer a question.
Okay. What do you need?
Not what I need.
No, you. If I'm Eileen. No, yes, you.
Yes,
what do you need? What do you need? No, you, Eileen. Because you said we, so you must mean you. So what do you need?
Well, let me think. What do I need? I'd like to. I'd need hospital treatment quicker than we're getting it. I mean, I'm on an 8-month waiting list. Yes, I need that, Tom.
Do you believe it's possible to care about people, period?
I've got enough people to care about, Tom.
No, I'm coming back to your original argument, which is that liberals only care about refugees.
No, you don't. You care for every dumb animal in the world. I mean, you know, those days are finished now, Tommy. We've cared for everybody.
I'm kind of lost in your argument at the moment. No, if I may, Eileen, I'm kind of lost in your argument at the moment. I know you're unhappy. I can tell you're very unhappy.
I'm not unhappy, Tom, not with my lot. I'm just unhappy listening to people like you.
No, but you're unhappy. You are unhappy with your lot because you said that, because you said that you needed help.
Well, hospital help, yes.
Yes. And you said that you wanted people to care about you and find out what help you needed before people...
No, not me specifically. See, this is where we split hairs with you, Tommy. There are millions of people that need help in this country. There are children that need help in this country. But you never get people like you coming on telling us about the poor sod down the road who's managing on a couple of pound a week. We never hear you coming on telling us, you know, well, there's a lot of one-parent families that need help.
Yeah, I think you'll find, Eileen, that you hear nothing but that, to be honest with you.
What, from you?
Well, you don't hear my views. You don't know what my views are.
I've heard lots of them, Tom.
No, if I may, you think you have, but that's possibly, if I may, that's possibly because you hear me putting the opposite view to whichever member of the public cares to test their own opinion with me, which is the name of the game, agreed?
No, well, all I hear from you, Tommy, is a patronising tone all the time, and that is what is most irritating about you.
Right, Eileen.
Yes.
Eileen, we're going to have to put an end to it if you don't just keep up. You've said those things. I'm just reminding you what the name of the game is. If you believe that you have an opinion which deserves to be paraded on the radio, then you deserve to also have that opinion tested. That applies to whether you're the Prime Minister or Eileen in Bentley. Fair enough? Because you're all the same.
Yes.
Everybody's the same. You get the same treatment as the Prime Minister. Is that a good deal or what?
Oh, yes, a wonderful deal.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, because it turns out, okay, that the majority of people who wish to air their views have the same opinions as, for example, on refugees, yourself and Sandy, then you will find me testing those opinions from what tends to appear to be a consistent point of view, which is the opposite one. But let me make something absolutely clear to you, Eileen. You will never know what I really think.
Well, can I ask you one question then, Tommy?
I'd rather you didn't.
Well,
I'd rather you didn't because this is not about my views. This is about your views, and I'm just helping you to understand fully the process of phone-in radio.
This is a psychoanalysis, Tommy, rather than a sort of questionnaire.
On the contrary, I'm just improving your understanding of phone-in radio.
Do you agree then that we should have an ever open door and let everybody come here?
I'm not prepared to betray my own personal views.
Thanks, Tommy. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Fish in a barrel, really. You're listening to LBC Breakfast. It's 9:20.
Fax LBC now 0171 312 8570.
And the conversation gravitating around events over the last 48 hours in Dover. And Kay has called from Westminster. Kay, you're on LBC Breakfast.
Hello, Tommy. Good morning.
Morning.
Now, I must say, I do listen to this programme a lot, and half the time I don't agree with you because I think sometimes you get into an argument with a caller and you want to win the day. But today, when you spoke, I thought it was a man, but your young lady on the phone said it was a woman. Bigoted, has no idea, and I think you put the right question to her as to how you would be or feel if you were a refugee, right? Now, I'm a British-born lady, and I married a man who came here as a refugee, a bachelor, in 1939, and he was taken in here from Europe. Now, I agree that there are people, refugees, who take advantage and try to swing, as it were, to get in here. But if they were genuine, and I admired you 100% or 1,000% for saying to that bigoted woman who has no idea, how would you react if you were turned away from England? And that's what I want to tell you.
I'm grateful for your call, Kay. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
And
Bye.
I can't make any apology for wanting to win arguments. I mean, it's like some people they say they play tennis just for the fun of it. Well, in that case, why keep the score? Pamela calls from Ealing. Pamela, you're on LBC Breakfast. Good morning to you.
Oh, good morning. I just want to make one small point, which no one ever seems to really bring up when they mention the figures of refugees taken in by Germany and perhaps France. I don't know. No one ever seems to mention the size of Germany and France in comparison to us, into our country, with our country, because our country is so much smaller.
How much smaller?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I was trying to find a gazetteer to have a look.
Well, you can't come on the radio and say make a point like this.
But
when and then hang on, Pammy girl.
All right.
Hold your horses. That doesn't work, does it?
What doesn't?
You can't say that you want to make a point that people don't make, which is that nobody mentions the size of Germany and France compared to this country. So when we ask you what it is, you say you don't know. France is smaller than Britain.
No.
Well, how do you know? You just said you don't know how big France is.
I know France is much larger.
It's not.
It is.
It isn't. It's an optical illusion.
Not in numbers of population.
But a lot of it is uninhabitable. It's mountains. It's
geographically.
No, they've got the Himalayas.
Well, we've got Scotland.
Yeah, but that's not ice peaked. You can't live in the Himalayas.
No. But we've got Scotland.
And much of Germany's underwater.
Oh, well, I haven't, as I say, I haven't made comparisons. But
you can't live in the Everglades, just north of Berlin.
Well, can you tell me how much bigger they are?
They're not.
Oh, they are.
No, they're not. In any case, there are more Germans than there are Britons. What's the population of Britain?
Oh, I don't know. It's about 50 million, isn't it?
And what's the population of Germany?
I don't know. As I say, I was trying to look it up.
Well, Germany is bigger than Britain, mayhap, but it also has more people already.
All right. Oh, well, I wasn't aware of that.
Do you know if you divided Britain up so that everybody had the same amount of Britain who lives here, how much of Britain would you be entitled to? Do you see the sum I'm making here?
Yeah, oh, yes, I understand what you're saying.
Right, approximately how much of Britain would you get?
But no one even says how many refugees we've taken.
No.
And how many Germany's taken. They just say, Germany's got more than us.
They have. They've got 30,000 Kosovo refugees in Germany.
Kosovo, yeah. Well, I understood we had about 30,000 Bosnian refugees in Ealing.
Now, where did you get that one from, Pet?
Well, I think it was 30,000. Maybe I got
30,000 Bosnian refugees just in Ealing?
Well, I understood
just in
that.
Ealing?
Or Hillingdon, one or the other.
Or somewhere. Where is it?
No, I heard it.
You did. Somebody mentioned it.
But I didn't make a note of it. I didn't write it down. But I'm pretty sure there are an awful lot. Anyway, I'm just mentioning that because you were debating.
Do you? Because sometimes I say things on the radio and I feel a fool.
Well, I do always.
Really?
Well, everybody disputes what I say. But anyway.
What you need to do, you see, is, and I was on this with Sandy, really, you just need to know a couple of facts. That's all you need. All you need.
I know, yes. But when we're phoning you...
Yes.
I
ask you for your facts.
Well, yes, but we don't have time to do that because we don't know.
Well, are you entitled?
Otherwise, no one would phone you if we checked our facts. It'd be about a week before we got the information.
No, that's not true. I can teach you how to research things much more easily than that.
Oh, I know, but then we have to have the time to do it.
Well, in that case, you see, if you haven't got anything to support your opinion, how come you've got an opinion?
Well, you've got to look at the map, and as I say, I know France is bigger.
No, that's not the question I asked.
Yeah.
The question is,
I know you need facts.
I asked this of all humanity, including myself. How is it that all of us have more opinions than information?
Well, I think lots of newspaper writers have opinions.
Yes. Thank you, Pamela. It's nice to talk to you. Marilyn calls from Wembley. Marilyn, you're on LBC Breakfast. Good morning to you. Marilyn, it's you.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Basically, what I'd like to ask you is why you try to intimidate people on your radio programme and not listen to what they're actually saying to you.
Well, that's an interpretive matter, and you have your interpretation, which I would disagree with.
Well, I come from the Canterbury area in Kent, and I'm staying with my mother at the moment in Wembley.
Very interesting. I, at the moment, live just south of the South Downs, and I'm working in London.
Right.
Yes.
Well, have you actually seen the problems that we are having in Dover at the moment, where innocent young chaps are being knifed, stabbed, they're having wounds that are horrific through no fault of their own because of these refugees?
That again is interpretative, and I don't think people who live in Canterbury are entitled to use the royal we about Dover, although my geography is shaky.
My geography certainly is not shaky.
Isn't it?
I think your opinions are extremely shaky. Because
how far is Canterbury from Dover, then?
Very short distance, 15 minutes by car.
15 minutes by car? How far is that, then?
I beg your pardon?
How far is Dover from Canterbury?
About 18 miles.
About 18 miles.
In the mileage.
Well, I'm afraid people who live in Canterbury can't refer to Dover as we.
OK, then we won't refer to Dover as we, but what we will refer to is the fact that there are people in Dover who are waiting for hospital treatment with doctors, schooling, all sorts of things. These refugees are stealing from the back of vehicles. They're stealing from homes. Products that are left at the sides of houses are being stolen. And you expect these people to be happy that there are refugees in their town. Well, I think you really need to know what you're talking about and to experience the situation, as I have actually seen myself and my partner, who is working in the Dover area.
With regard to my own opinions, Marilyn, I refer you to an answer that I gave earlier to a lady.
Yeah.
You're listening to LBC Breakfast. It's 9:30.
Call Tommy Boyd now. 0171 412 1152.
We ran the gamut of news and current affairs topics on the breakfast show between 6 and 9 this morning, as is our pledge every weekday morning on the breakfast show. But the issue which seems to have attracted most attention concerns the standoff at a fairground between a gang of Dover youths and a gang of youths drawn from the various communities who at the moment have taken refuge in the Dover area prior to either repatriation or, as it's described, dispersal elsewhere in the United Kingdom. 0171 412 1152. Lorraine calls in Park Royal. Lorraine, good morning.
Hello, Tommy, you much put upon person.
Thank you.
Now, I'm looking at a flattened map of the world, right?
Yeah.
I've got a picture of London, a picture of Paris, and a picture of Germany, and we seem to be taking up the same amount of paper space on the map. So unless the two ladies who called before looking at a map, they must be looking at a different one to me.
I know.
Because it looks like the same amount of space.
Pretty much, isn't it, really?
Yes, it is.
Give or take.
They're soaking in just as much as we are.
Yes.
And also, I'd like somebody who is in the benefit system like me, reluctantly, might I add,
yes,
to say that they've lost their benefit this Monday because it's gone straight to a refugee. Because that's what they seem to be saying. They're taking things away from us. So has anybody lost their benefit this Monday because it's gone straight to a refugee?
I see your point.
And the lady who says she's been waiting 8 months to go on a waiting list for an operation, I waited 4 years for one. And I got mine.
Okay.
And the waiting list has been bad for years. So she can't put that onto the refugees at all. It's like they've come in, they've got problems in their own country. Our government has been kind enough to say, yes, well, you can stay here while we decide what we're going to do with you. And all problems have been blamed on them. The housing, the lack of money, and the racist thing, the boys who've been stabbed in Dover, the English boys, and they forgot to mention the refugees that have been set upon by our own youth.
I think you just made a very good point there, and I do wonder whether some people, and I'm not referring to callers we've had to this show today, but I do wonder whether some people are actually, in their hearts, without realising it, rooting for our boys.
Yes, of course they are. There's deep-seated bigotry in this country, not just against my colour, I happen to be black, but against many ethnic minorities. It's been bred in for generations, and it can't be just bred out in a generation. It's like at the bottom of society.
When I asked the first caller to this hour what she would do, given the hypothetical situation as follows, that you were to wake up in the morning to find that the country has been taken over by a hostile political regime which immediately outlaws you for one reason or another.
Yeah.
Okay? And you discover that if you haven't left the country within 24 hours, then you will be interred, the consequences of which indeterminate.
I would do anything to keep me and my 3 children alive.
And together, but where would you go? And how would you do it?
I don't know. I can't answer that question. I would run to the first country that would take me, probably France.
Isn't it a beaut? Isn't it a beaut of a question? And doesn't it get you thinking? Lorraine, thank you for your call.
Yeah, no problem. Bye.
Thank you for your atlas. Michelle calls now from Stockwell. Michelle, you're on LBC Breakfast. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Tommy. I just thought I'd have a look at the statistics for the population to give you some thoughts on that, Britain, as of last year, had 57,549,220.
Right.
Their population. France, because we've been talking about that as well, 58,700,000. And Germany, a lot more, 82,057,379.
Interesting. Thank you for that.
So I just thought I'd share that with you.
And whilst I've got you, what would you do if you woke up and discovered that you had to flee Britain within 24 hours? As a new refugee, where would you go?
Well, I do have some family in South Africa and some family in Kenya.
I think for most people that is your first thought, isn't it? Who have I got abroad who would house me?
If I didn't, well, hopefully try and get on a boat and just go somewhere. And maybe they would take us in.
I think it strikes me when I think about this in my own circumstances, and I think when most people think about this difficult question, you find that what you would do is make it up as you go along.
Yes, you would.
And hope for the best.
I'm in a situation where I care for my mum. She's housebound. So you do think of your family, and it's literally as a day at a time. What, who would take you in, who would care for you, and you would. It would sort of be feeling by the minute.
Hey, I'm glad you called. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
01714121152. It's 20 to 10.
Phone LBC now. Have your say. 0171 412 1152. LBC 1152 AM.
And we go now to Alf, who's calling. He's on line 11. Good morning to you, Alf.
Good morning.
Morning.
Can you tell me why I have to show my passport every time I go abroad to visit comrades that I fought with in France, Belgium, Holland, and Germany? Yet they don't have to show their passport when they come into this country, because we got a border and they haven't. You tell me that. I didn't need a passport when I flew into Normandy on the landings, and what you say is a load of old gutwash. There's 14,000 of my comrades buried out there. They didn't fight for this country to be ruled by races. This government has banned the National Front, yet they haven't got the guts to ban the racist mob that are the cause of all this trouble, because Tony Blair couldn't get in on the next election. That's why he's doing everything for them. And Jack Straw's the same. They haven't got the guts.
What would you do then, mate?
Hey?
What would you do then?
Ban them.
How'd you do that?
Look at the rights we've had over here. Other nationalities.
Okay.
Yet the British people...
Case proven. Case proven, Alf. Case proven. What do you do? And how do you do it?
What do I do?
Yeah, how do you do it?
Kick them out.
Where do you...
Send them back. If they don't want to live by our rules and regulations and the way we talk, kick them out.
So kick the racists out, but where do we kick them?
Back to their own country.
But most of them are born here.
No, not all of them.
No. Sorry, Alf, I'm a bit confused. Are you anti-racist or anti-refugees?
No, I'm an ex-para.
Right, that explains everything.
I'm an ex-para. I know what I'm talking about.
Indeed.
I didn't fight in Arnhem and the Rhine crossing.
No, you fought to what was it again?
Pardon?
You fought what was it to again?
I fought in Arnhem.
Yes, to what? For what?
For freedom.
Freedom.
To free them people out there against the Germans.
Yes. Al, thank you very much indeed for your call. Let's go to Kiana, who calls from Islington. Kiana, you're on LBC. Morning.
Good morning, Tommy. This is the first time I ring your program, and I find it very interesting. And you do give chance to people to talk about their views. I came here 22 years ago as a refugee. I left my country, Chile, for Argentina because I was studying at the university, civil engineering, and I found myself that I was able to carry on my studies in my own country. I was married to an engineer. He had a very good job, top salary, and everything was brilliant. But the day after, nothing was good. It was frightening, and you had to be back home about 12 o'clock because of the curfew, then the following week 6 o'clock, and so on. And I tried to get back to the university. I was working as a teacher at the same time. And I wasn't allowed to because I was blacklisted. Why was I blacklisted? Because during the summertime, I used to go to teach to read and write, the people who didn't. By the way, Chile has got the lowest rate of illiteracy because of the programs of university students who do it for free. And the point of teaching people to read and write is to know their own rights. And now I came across a document I received from Geneva about the Declarations of Human Rights. And I was reading it for the first time a couple of days ago. And that shows you how little we know about our own rights. And it's beautiful to read this document because it's full of love and compassion. And I think this is the right of every person on earth. Yours, mine, the lady who spoke before, and the man who spoke just now, the paratrooper. And if we read, we realize that our rights can be breached anytime, any day, any place. And we have to work together to make a better world, to try to apply these to reality, to practice these. Because with love and compassion, we can go along. I was tortured with electric shocks, not in Chile, but in Argentina, because I had to take refuge on the next door country. And as I understand, these electric batons were manufactured in Europe. They may even have been manufactured in Britain. And this is the result of the dealing of arms dealing. And I think...
an important question. Why did you choose eventually to seek refuge in Britain?
After being tortured in Argentina, I was freed, and because I didn't have any connection with anyone in Argentina, and they said to me, if we see you around, if you talked about this, we will bring you back and do the same to you again. I was raped and burned with cigarettes and electric shocks, etc. And I was in fear of my life, so I seek refuge in the United Nations in Buenos Aires. And they apply through Amnesty International and other organizations, international organizations, for me to ask a visa from 3 different countries. I had to leave that country because I was terrified. It didn't mind to me where to go, but to leave that country was the urgency. And I applied for Canada, Sweden, and England. And I went to interviews to 3 different embassies and consulates. And the first one to grant the visa was Britain. And I had, in the meantime, developed about 20 different allergies and asthma and all that. As soon as I came to England, everything disappeared. It was gradually disappearing because I thought I still have it. And the doctor said to me, you don't have asthma anymore. Leave the injections, leave the vaccinations, leave the inhalations. This is a free country. And he had to convince me that I didn't have any problems anymore. But it's very, very disheartening to go through the things that you never expected, that you thought you had a dream life. You have planned this forever, but nothing is forever because life is very, very fickle, and it all depends on the government. And if we, as individuals, make more problems to our neighbors and the people around us because we think we can gather more material things and leave the rest out.
Okay, Kiana, I want to thank you very much. And thank you very, very much for coming to the radio and telling us your story. That is an LBC listener whose experience you heard, who was tortured and raped, and who came to this country because this country was the first one to offer her help and a haven. And she came with a crushed body and mind and spirit, and it was cured, her doctor said, because she lived in a free country. And that was why Alf went to war, wasn't it, in 1940? And if it came to me, that's why I think I would go to war for the same thing, so that this country can be proud that it helps. Are people saying that they would rather that Kiana had been sent back to her torturers because for every Kiana there are, I don't know, a dozen people who merely want to get into this country because they've heard it's a soft touch? Aren't we proud of our justice system, which says that 9 guilty parties shall go free in order that one innocent party shall not be convicted? 0171412 1152. Let's go to Michael in Sidcup. Michael, you're on LBC Breakfast. Morning.
Oh, morning, Tommy. What I want to say is that really the comments that I've heard this morning, I was hoping to see your programme very long. I just heard the last half hour of it or so. But the comments just seem to be, to not put a too fine a point on it, it's basically bigoted attitudes. I heard yesterday that people in Dover were saying they were swamped, and I remember the first time I heard that was from Margaret Thatcher, who used that phrase when talking about immigration in the 80s. I think it's quite easy for people who've got fairly comfortable lives in this country to sort of, not really want refugees to come into this country. I think it's a shame, and it just goes to prove that we don't live in a all-singing, all-dancing, happy, multicultural society.
Michael, thanks for your call. 0171412 1152. We'll find out what's on Steve Allen's show in about 5 minutes' time. Let's take a break. Just turn 10 to 10.
On LBC 1152 AM.
I understand we pause for editorial comment. We go to Lucy in West Hampstead. Lucy, good morning.
Good morning, Tommy. I'm an avid listener of LBC throughout the day and night until I fall asleep. The lady that you've just had on, is it Kiana?
That's her name?
Yeah. It wasn't her first time call. She's phoned the station before with the same story. She was raped and electrocuted. I heard it some weeks back. I can't say precisely when because I have no reason to write things down. But everyone, as you would say, has an opinion. But I can sometimes understand why people, and presumably, please note, they're English about the refugees. I feel sorry for them, and we should help. But charity begins at home.
She did say that this was the first time she'd phoned me.
Yes. Oh, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
She was very clear about that.
Right, but I know I've heard her story before because it touched me. But charity does begin at home. How do we help all our homelessness?
Well, if you're asking, are you asking me, or is it a rhetorical question?
Well, I'm asking, if I may ask you for an opinion, yeah.
All right, you do it like this, okay? There's someone on the side of the street where you are who's just stubbed their toe.
Yeah.
And there's somebody over on the other side of the street who's just been run over by a steamroller.
Who do you help first?
Yes, you tell me.
The steamroller.
Why is that? They're further away. They're not near a home than the person who stubbed their toe. It's because...
It's more serious.
Exactly, that's how I do it. How do you do it?
Probably like you.
There we go, like minds.
Yeah.
Thanks for your call. Ron's in Bromley. Ron, you're on LBC Breakfast.
Morning, Tommy.
Morning.
Very interesting programme.
There.
And the whole of the morning, well, since 9 o'clock, you've been having a go at some of these people, and you're asking them to give proof of this and proof of that. Now, why didn't you ask the woman from Argentina that came on with the tales of woe to prove what she has been saying?
Because there's...
You never even asked her.
No. How would you do that?
Well, you're the presenter. You're the one asking the questions. You're the one that's bisecting everybody that's phoning up.
How would you do that?
Well, ask her to prove what she's got.
How would you do that?
How can the people prove what you was asking them this morning?
That's easy.
No, it's not easy.
Yes, it is easy.
Yes, I listen to your programme every morning.
I'm not interested. It is easy. Stick to the point. It is easy. Stick to the point.
Why didn't you ask her to prove it then?
Because you can't.
Oh, exactly right. Like some of these poor people that.
But if somebody comes on the radio, and says that Germany is bigger than Britain.
Oh, come on.
And
people are loyal to the country, and the country is Great Britain. And these people are loyal to it. And all you've done this morning is belittle them. And
now you just wait a second. You just wait a second here, and you listen to me on that one. I'll talk to you. Let me talk to you about bad manners. This is bad manners. This is bad manners. The reason that people in this country can be proud of this country today, this August the 17th, 1999, Ron, top of my list, is because we care about people, whatever the colour of their skin.
Do we?
Yes, we do. We do. And I have a funny feeling. Ron, you don't. So you tell me. So you tell me.
You don't have an opinion of me. I have my own opinion of me.
So you tell me.
I've got an opinion of you.
So you tell me.
I think that you are running this programme into the dustbins.
So you tell me.
That is my. I'm sorry.
If you
that
can.
Is my view.
If you're able to, you tell me for what reason you have draped yourself in a Union Jack.
Because I fought for the country, and I'm hoping that what I fought for in the Second World War was to the benefit of all the people living in it. And I'm sorry, that's my opinion. That's why I went. I didn't have to stand and say, I'm going to be a conscientious objector.
No, Ron, try and answer the question, mate.
Flowers in there and things like this.
Try and answer the question.
I just answered it.
No, you didn't.
Didn't I?
You referred to 1945. I asked you about August the 17th, 1999.
The reason you said was your opinion. I said I fought in the Second World War to give my opinion on this. Is the greatest country in the world.
Because?
It's being
Why?
spoiled. It's being
Why?
spoiled.
Why is it the greatest country in the world?
And your programme is being spoiled by you.
Why is it the greatest country in the world?
Because it's a free country.
Exactly.
It's a free country.
Precisely.
That's what we're hoping it's a free country, but it's being ruined by other people.
By foreigners.
No, I never said that.
Well, say what you mean then.
You just said, I never said
say
a
what you
word
mean
about that.
Well, other people's no good. Everybody's other people. Your wife's another person. Other people doesn't get us anywhere.
Oh, come on, Tommy.
Which other people?
Let's get a little bit of sense.
You
are trying to bisect everybody.
Pin you down. Pin you down. Trying to pin you down, and it's easy because you don't. I know you're thinking better than you do.
I know you're thinking as well. You're trying to wind me up like you've been winding up people since 9 o'clock. And it is wrong because these people are not youngsters.
Oh, blimey. Ron, shut up. Steve Allen's here. Ron, shut up. Shut up. Steve Allen's here. Sorry, Steve.
Land of Hope.
I've no idea we were running out of time.
I know. We'll carry on taking your calls, I think, on this one. It's obviously going to be a hotbed, and you can argue the toss, but it won't be with Mr. Boyd. It'll be with me. We'll talk to Dr. Rob Hicks and Sally Brown between 11 and 12, and Diane Burstein returns. But let's have your thoughts on it. Whatever your views on the refugees, I'm sure we can continue. You can carry on. Perhaps I could defend Tommy as we go through my hour or something.
Will you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, as I said to an earlier caller, I've just been neutral, Steve. I've just tried to play the devil's advocate.
No, you're trying to wind him up. Wind him up, you were.
Call Tommy Boyd now. 0171 412 1152.
Welcome to the open line section of LBC Breakfast. Between 9 and 10 every morning, your opportunity to talk about, argue with, whatever. Any of the issues that have been raised, news stories that have been covered during the breakfast show, which begins at 6 o'clock. Yesterday, we covered in some depth, breadth anyway, the business of refugees and asylum seekers coming to Britain. This was, of course, entirely in the wake of the confrontation between local youths and refugee youths in Dover at the weekend. 01714121152. The conversation continued through Steve Allen's programme until 11 o'clock, and I was listening driving at home in the car. I found it absolutely fascinating hearing the range of views. I don't think I have heard radio phone-in which generated so many entirely polarised views than for a long time. So it may well be that it occurred to you during that period of time that there was something that was being unsaid or something that was not being properly stressed, and you were, plenty of people on the show were properly stressed, I can tell you, obviously. But if you missed your opportunity to dot an I or cross a T yesterday, then we're quite happy to continue that conversation today. So if you found yourself dialing but either couldn't get through because the phone lines are absolutely solid, or you've had an opportunity to distill your thoughts, then by all means 0171412 1152. Do you know how many Japanese there will be in the year 3050 if they carry on breeding at their present rate? Now, this is a very interesting question because the answer is the absolute opposite of what you would think. The answer is 1. The calculation is that by the year 3050, there will be one Japanese little fellow on his moped going round and round Yakima, going, hello, hello. One Japanese person. And this leads me to think that we should think about the business of overpopulation all over again, because whilst it is known that there are some parts of the world where the population is increasing dramatically, India is a case in point. At any moment now, they will announce that there are 1 billion Indians. Okay? But there are other parts of the world where repopulation is necessary for whatever reason, because the population is in decline. And it will be interesting to find out from people listening to this program just why it is that so many people in this country believe that we are absolutely stuffed so full of human beings that we can scarcely accommodate one shorthouse. Because it simply isn't the case. Is it because too many people spend most of their lives entirely in heavily populated areas such as this wonderful conurbation London? If you scarcely leave London, and if you do, you only go by plane, then you will have no opportunity of realising just what a problem agoraphobics face the minute they get, well, blimey, almost north of Islington, never mind about north of Watford. You can go for hundreds of miles and only see a handful of houses. This is not by any stretch of the imagination an overpopulated country. If you were to divide up the country so that each man, woman and child in Britain had the same amount of territory, you, me, your children, my children, each solitary one of us would get 7 acres. Now think about that and try and square that with your belief, if you have this belief, that Britain is in any way an overpopulated country, because it isn't. And it would be very interesting to get some guesswork from people who are dreadfully concerned about the levels of refugees seeking safety in Britain, and the number of asylum seekers that are coming to this country as well. I've got the numbers in front of me, it just happens, about asylum seekers. There are a total of, it looks like to me, just doing the sums in my head, about 3,000 asylum seekers seeking to come and stay in Britain. A total of 235 from India. A total of 205 from China. 205? 205 is one heavily crowded tube train. Do we really need to be concerned if that is the level of numbers of people who are seeking asylum in Britain? 0171412 1152. We took one sneak call just before we went on air, which we didn't put through. We gave the caller Anne's home phone number. It was somebody who claimed to be from the planet Vulcan, who was the third cousin twice removed of Mr. Spock, and wanted to talk about the body that's been discovered in space. So she's probably chatting to him on her mobile now. It's 9:10, and Lynn has called from Forest Gate. Lynn, good morning to you.
Morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Fine. Listen, Tommy, I was really very upset yesterday about that lady. She was very, very rude to you, you see. And when I phoned in, well, I couldn't get through, you see. I was really upset. She was extremely rude to you, and you don't deserve that.
You're kind?
You don't. You are such a wonderful person. Can I just say one more thing anyway?
Yes.
You see, you, Tommy Boyds,
yeah,
and Peter Dilly.
Yes.
Look, you are such a wonderful human being. A combination of you two, your character, is what the world leaders need, and all the human beings for a peaceful world, really. You two are such marvelous, very wonderful human beings.
Lynn, I'm grateful for your for your insight.
True.
Thank you for your call.
Okay, bye.
Very nice to talk to you. Surprisingly enough, people being rude to you, even if it is within the domain of a radio phone-in program, is very painful. But it's part of the job, you know? You have to do it. Don't enjoy doing it. Don't enjoy taking flack, especially when it's heartfelt flack, articulate, piercing, well-informed flack. Like the lady yesterday wasn't, but you do sometimes get it, and it hurts. So, Lynn, your support gratefully received. The number's 0171 412 1152. It's the open line section of LBC Breakfast at just turned 9:10.
Get involved. Get involved. Call LBC now. 0171 412 1152.
This is the latest on what happened as a result of Dover. An urgent appeal is issued to local authorities across the country today to help spread the burden of housing asylum seekers and ease tensions in Kent. Towns across the southeast were said to be at breaking point, with at least 2 charities warning they were no longer able to find accommodation for the arrivals who continue to pour into the region. The appeal to 400 councils in England and Wales came as Kent police drafted more officers onto the streets of Dover to quell violence in the wake of the weekend's clashes between local residents and asylum seekers. Kent County Council also appealed to London boroughs to stop placing asylum seekers in bed and breakfast accommodation in the area. London Government Association Chairman Sir Jeremy Beecham said the situation strengthened its social services team in Dover. I think I've probably got the wrong piece of paper there. But this is the phone-in part of the programme, so let's go back to the phones. Alan calls from Mitcham. Alan, you're on LBC. Good morning.
Good morning. Enjoy your show, by the way, Tommy.
Yeah.
The people that are on about the immigrants, coming into the country are more than likely royalists. Don't they realise that nearly the whole of the royal family are German, plus one Greek? Will they want them to go back to wherever, to Germany?
Yes,
they're on about other, people coming in.
Yeah, I was listening to Steve Allen's programme yesterday, and he found himself making more than once a very important point, which is that nobody, more so than the English, are, I think the phrase he was using to good effect was mongrel.
Yeah, we're made up of every nation, everything.
Yes.
Right back from the Romans, if you want.
Yes, and we've always been a multicultural country.
Yeah.
And I heard a caller asking Steve, well, what benefits, if you're in favour of us being a multicultural society, what benefits do you perceive in that? I mean, what about you, Alan? I presume you have nothing against people coming to this country either to stay or to shelter.
No. So long as they obey the law of the land.
Yeah.
That applies to everybody. I have no problems. I believe that everybody's here for a reason, whatever that reason is on Earth. And, we should all get, mix and live together.
I've noticed myself having more respect for racists who are prepared to say, I am a racist, and therefore that is why I think this. I have much less respect for people who try to, it seems to me on occasions, camouflage. I'm not accusing all of those who have reservations about immigration of being racist at all, although I suspect it's always in there somewhere. But I don't have any respect for those who try to camouflage overt racism by waving figures around and by pleading on behalf of national security or suggesting that it meant that little old ladies were going without their false teeth and their operations. That I think is bogus.
Like to find now, and if you could do it, it'd be interesting, how many people actually leave England to go to places like America, Australia, Canada, to live out there. Because if I remember rightly, some years back, there was as many people leaving as coming back into England.
Yes. Well, we must remember that the country which won the Second World War, the United States of America, is a country which is made up entirely of refugees.
Yeah.
Entirely of refugees. That is a population that is made up entirely of the descendants of asylum seekers or refugees or gold diggers, you might like to say.
Well, I mean, they're saying there's more Jewish people in New York than there is in Israel, isn't there?
Yes. You can buy a toilet roll in this country at 11 o'clock at night. And I'm just thinking of down-to-earth reasons why we should cherish the people who have brought us a different attitude to so many things by coming to this country. And staying. And there's just one thought right at the top of your head. A much better cricket team and a much better set of footballers.
Well,
for example,
the same.
Yes.
All right, he's had an injury, but on the whole, he is one of our better cricketers.
He is. Alan, I'm grateful for your call. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. John next in Ongar.
Hello.
John, you're on LBC. Hello.
Oh, yes. I don't think America won the last war. I think what America done, they gave us martial aid. And they gave us martial aid, but also they let us have a few destroyers to try and beat the Germans. And if it hadn't been for the Battle of Britain, I'm afraid the whole world would have been under the domination of Hitler, which I'm afraid we seem to be repeating our own history now. I would say that in this country, of 48 million people before the war, I would say it is 90 million. And how I say it, that the DVLA published a white paper in 1995 saying that there's 30 private motorists, and I would say 3 times as many of them haven't got a car. Now, we all complain about the children being gassed and more asthma in this country, and we are polluting everywhere. We want these greenfield places, lungs we want to be able to breathe, like the Epping Forest that used to be years ago. They said, have Epping Forest and we're about to breathe. Now you'll turn around and you'll say, I don't see all these people walking about, don't you? Well, all you've got to do is keep your eyes open and look. We used to have corner shops years ago. Now we've got supermarkets. We've got hypermarkets. We're getting modified food because we can't feed the children in the whole of the world. As I've said before, and I'll say again, we keep on reproducing ourselves and we don't look at the right facts.
No. OK, John, thank you very much indeed for your call. Very interesting. John believes the population of Britain is 90 million. That's a very interesting and original thought. I've never been asked if I'm here. You've never been asked if you're here. We're always told that the population of Britain is 56 million. We all know how poor censuses are. They did a census in I think it was 46. And they knocked on the door of a house in Manchester, and they asked the young man who was living there what his name was, and he said Matt Busby. And they asked him, I've seen this census. I've actually seen it in black and white. This really happened. They asked him what he did for a living. So he told them, and they hurriedly sketched everything down and went off. And this was published. Matt Busby, occupation, fruit boiler. And they can make a simple mistake like that because someone's got a Scottish accent and they never heard it before. How do you know that there are 56 million people in Britain? And maybe John's got a point. Maybe there are an awful lot more people in Britain for one reason or another. So that was an interesting point. One has to take issue, of course, with what he said to begin with, which is that America didn't win the Second World War. As patriotic as one likes to be, and as careful to recognise the sacrifice that so many British people made in defeating the Nazis, I think it's a reasonable view of history to say that without the support, let's cut to the chase. The United States beat Hitler and Japan, and we're very grateful for that and continue to show our gratitude one way or another. 0171 412 1152. You're listening to LBC Breakfast.
Facts LBC now. 0171 312 8570.
Now, I've had one or two cowardly callers, but nevertheless they have left their message. Mary in Walton, for example, refuses to come on air but wants to make this point. She would like my address to be broadcast so that all the refugees can come and live with me, which is ridiculous. It's like saying, I am in favour of the National Health Service. I am. Does she expect me to give my address to doctors so that they can do heart transplants on my kitchen table? You can approve of something without having necessarily to existentialise it, Mary. You'll probably have to look up even the short words, never mind about the long one. Rosemary calls from Kilburn. Rosemary, you're on LBC. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Tommy, you're quite right when you say that outside London there is lots and lots of space to disperse refugees. But what you've got to remember is there isn't very much work. Which means if they disperse them over the country, then it means that they have got to be on benefits. Now, you and I both know that you can't get a quart out of a pint pot. And there's very few people paying in to the system today. So you can't keep on letting people take out without putting anything in.
Oh, Rosemary, come on, Rosemary, warm up. This is such cold fish stuff. This is
Why?
You're desperately trying to construct logical arguments. The truth of the matter is you just don't want any more foreigners in Britain because you're fed up with the foreigners we've got. Why?
I didn't say any such thing.
No, I know you didn't, but you should because that's what you think.
No, how do you know what I think?
Well, because
it's perfectly logical.
Because the argument that you've used is it doesn't bear a moment's scrutiny.
Of course it does.
It certainly doesn't. How many asylum seekers are we talking about?
Well, I don't know how many there are.
Well, I said it on the programme. I said it on the programme not 15 minutes ago.
I do know this, that there isn't much.
Do you want to know how many up north? Up north? Do you? Up north, there isn't much work. They're richer than we are down here.
Don't be stupid.
When were you last in Newcastle?
Well, very near Newcastle because my son happens to live there.
Right. When were you last in Newcastle?
Well, about a couple of months ago.
It's teeming, dear. They don't have any unemployment up there at the minute.
But I can tell you this, Tommy, they will not stay up there.
They?
If anybody is sent up there, they will make their way back down here.
How are they going to do that?
You know, I know. This is where the wealth of the country is, in and around London.
How many Londoners are there?
Pardon?
How many Londoners are there?
Who should I know?
How should you know? It's not going to bother you with your argument, is it? A few facts? How many asylum seekers are we talking about?
I don't know how many
You haven't got
there
a clue.
are.
You haven't got a clue. Don't you think that it would be a little more noble of you to furnish yourself with one or two tentative facts before you form what many people will consider a rather tasteless opinion?
No, I don't think so.
No,
I
I
think
didn't think
it's
you would.
you that's out of touch with people, the same as the government is out of touch with
And it's only Rosemary in Kilburn who's in touch.
No, not at all. Not at all. You have your arguments, but you don't like other people putting theirs.
I have my arguments and you will never know what they are, Rosemary.
Oh, come on.
Oh.
You're as shallow as anybody else, you are.
And you're about as deep as a cup of tea. Did you enjoy the argument?
What?
What? Nice to talk to you, Rose.
I should think so.
Good old girl. Right, let's keep the adrenaline going, shall we? There's quite enough Prozac out there. Liz is in Kent. Liz, you're on LBC. Morning.
Hi, I've just stopped thinking about the flies flying around, actually.
The flying ants?
The flying ants, yes. I've only stopped thinking about that. But on to more serious issues.
By all means.
I think maybe people have got an inherent fear of being invaded. Some genetic, especially the older people.
Well.
I know, like, from my mum's era, when she was growing up, she was told about, from the First World War, about mustard gas and, the fear of God, since she was very little as she was growing up. And I think it sort of stayed with her and with the older people, but it's been watered down. So
You're making a very powerful point.
The younger people, it's been watered down, so we're not so worried. But I think the older people, somewhere in the back of their heads, because they've been taught or they've been told, and they might not even remember. But they have an inherent... I mean, myself personally, I think about environments and things like, well, if lots of people come in, does that mean we have to build lots of houses and things on the wildlife, say, in the marshes, say, East London?
Liz, thanks for your call. Yes, you make an important point. We sent counsellors to Kosovo to help children who'd been traumatised because of what happened there over a period of a few weeks. If you took a 10-year-old and subjected that 10-year-old to nightly aerial bombardments, whilst that 10-year-old was living in a shelter at the bottom of the garden, sheltering there with their parents, who they realised were also under mortal threat, and you sustained that with that 10-year-old for a period of months, maybe years, whilst at the same time they knew that their older brothers and older cousins were going off to fight in mortal combat against the worst tyrant the world had ever seen. If you subjected a 10-year-old to that, you would expect that 10-year-old surely to bear some of the scars of what had happened. And that's what happened during the Battle of Britain, which a caller mentioned earlier. And those callers now have heroically reached a later stage in their lives and may find that some of their views about people visiting Britain one way or another from abroad have been coloured by those experiences. 01714121152. Let's get the news from Douglas Cameron. It's 9:30. Terry's call from Manor Park. Morning, Terry.
Good morning there, Tommy.
Hi.
I have to say, I don't know how you're going to take this, but I'm a little bit disappointed in your response to one of your callers yesterday. When the veteran said to you that he fought in the war, and you asked him, what did he fight against? And he said Germany. You failed to take up on the point of saying that only the racists fought against Germany. The soldiers and freedom fighters would have fought against the atrocities and the oppressors of the people that were living in Germany.
Yeah. Well, technically, though, he was right. But I take your point. You're quite right. He fought against the Nazis, he should have said.
That's what he should have done. But you knew the real reason is he actually...
Well, if I may make a point here, Terry, he's the only person who can say who he thought he was fighting against, and that's what I was interested in, his concept of who the enemy was.
It's true enough, but the point that was being made, that when you asked him about who he was fighting against, he never saw a problem with what they was actually doing. He just saw a problem with who they were.
Well, we're guessing there.
Well, I'm only going by his answer.
Nothing wrong with guessing. We always read everything into whatever people say.
Well, the truth lies between the lines, not on the line, Tommy.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Okay, thank you.
Good to talk. Reference to a caller yesterday, somebody who had been at Arnhem, who had reservations about the level of refugees who are being accommodated in Britain, which is what we seem to be talking about mostly today. James calls from Sunbury. James, you're on LBC. Hello, James.
Hi, I just wanted to ask you a question. I just wanted to know that if you found out that a refugee camp was going to be built at the bottom of your road where you lived, and there was going to be, hundreds of refugees moving in, would you have any problem with that or not?
I really can't understand the question. You should be ashamed of yourself for asking it. Of course not.
You wouldn't have any problem at all with
Not
that?
in the slightest. I would welcome it.
Really?
Absolutely, wouldn't you? Well, what the hell's so special about Sunbury, for God's sake?
Nothing. I hate it.
Oh, quite. Wouldn't you?
I think fill Sunbury up with them.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. The refugees wouldn't have let that clock go.
Wouldn't have let what clock go?
Sunbury clock.
Why, is it gone?
It's gone.
No, it isn't.
It is.
What, the little...
Got a bloody flyover over it, mate. The refugees wouldn't have let that happen.
There.
You know, the interesting thing is when people come to this country, all right, they seem to care more about British traditions than the Brits.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not a patriotic person.
No.
But I just wondered, I can't disagree with the humanitarian reasons for letting in refugees, but if I found out that... I would have... I don't know any refugees. I haven't met any. But if I found out, that a few hundred were going to be accommodated just round the corner from me and my children...
I like you, James. You're not ashamed to say you're ignorant.
I'm ignorant.
And that's fantastic. I love meeting racists who say, look, I'm a racist. I don't know why, but I can't stand coloured people.
Really?
Because at least
you think I'm a racist, then?
No, I didn't say that. You're ignorant. You said that.
Right. Oh, I see. So you're not saying that you like meeting racists like me?
No. I like meeting racists who at least have done some work on themselves. They've done the beginnings of the work. Because I was a racist myself. I was brought up as a racist.
Right.
But you see, everybody is an ist. What I always say is this, look, okay, you meet somebody who are so PC about their non-racist views. I say to them, look, if you had a 10-year-old child and aliens came and landed, all right, and you knew that there was a little green man who lived at the end of your road, wouldn't you take your children down to the end of your road and point him or her out just because they've got green skin?
Yeah.
And of course the answer to that is yes. That's human curiosity. But nevertheless, it's sowing the seeds of alienism.
Right.
And all that went on in this country 30 or 40 years ago was various levels of curiosity about what people who were clearly slightly different, only very slightly, i.e. colour of skin, all right, were like.
Right.
And some people picked up that ball and ran with it down the wrong road.
Can I ask you another question?
Yeah?
I didn't get your census there. It's a bit more ignorance here.
Okay.
The census thing.
Yeah.
I didn't get that. I've been thinking about it.
Well, a bloke called John from Ongar was on saying that he doesn't believe that there are 56 million people in Britain. He thinks it's about 90 million.
Yeah, I got that, yeah.
Okay. Which bit then?
No, wait, you said there was census and the bloke answered the door and said, Matt Busby.
Matt Busby's got a very broad Scottish accent.
Yeah, I've tried that. I'm a bit slow.
They asked him what he did for a living and he said, I'm a footballer. I'm a footballer. I'm a footballer.
Ah.
And they wrote down...
And who's Matt Busby?
He's a saint.
Is the point? Is the reason I didn't get it is because I've never heard of Matt Busby? Is that a famous person?
You are ignorant.
I've never ever seen...
You are immensely ignorant. You must be the most ignorant person in London.
Football people do say this about me.
Fantastic. If you think you're more ignorant than James in Sunbury, give us a call and we can go head to head. Fantastic. Wouldn't it? To find out the biggest know-nothing in this great capital of ours. That would be fantastic.
Football's nothing, is it?
Probably not, but I think you'll find that the identity of Sir Matt Busby falls into the realms of general knowledge, doesn't it?
I've never even heard the name before.
You're a liar.
I am not a liar.
You porcupine. You would definitely fail an ECG. No, hang on, that's to find out if you're dead.
An ECG?
You'd probably fail that. No, well, they strap you in and pump you full of something or other. I've seen it on Quantum Leap. I can't remember what it's called.
ECG?
Find out if you're lying. You have heard of Matt Busby?
I swear I have never heard the name before. I was trying to do Matt Busby in a broad Scottish accent to try and see if there was a play on words there.
He said fruit boiler, and they put him down as a fruit boiler.
Yeah.
And that was in the 19-something or other.
Is he?
Yes. James, it's been a delight talking to you.
Thank you.
All of human life is here. Aren't people but fantastic and valiant? It's so hard being a human being. None of us are less confused than James in Sunbury. It's just turned 20 to 10.
Phone LBC now. Have your say. 0171 412 1152.
And Steve calls from Tooting. Steve, good morning.
Morning, Tom.
Hi.
Listen, I was listening to the show yesterday, and I was really upset the way some of these people were talking about what they were talking about, because I thought, well, what planet am I on? And the way they spoke to you as well. Because one woman rang up, she said she never listened to your show, and then she sort of put you down about everything. She's never heard you before. Half an hour, I think she'd heard you. Then she sort of was putting you down about your opinions on who you are and who you're not. She should listen. You know, if she shouldn't have really said that, because she doesn't really know you, Tom.
No.
And I was, I don't know. I feel still a bit angry now, because those people, where they were coming from, I mean, they should have recalled what they said, because I don't think they really knew where they were coming from.
No.
You know, sometimes it's good to, listen to what you're saying after you've said it. And sometimes, people make mistakes, and I think a lot of those people were making mistakes.
Yes.
And didn't realise it.
Steve, I'm grateful for your call. Thank you. And as I said to an earlier caller, it does hurt when you find yourself having to listen to quite poisonous diatribes against opinions that you don't have or views that you have never held. Let's be clear about the job of the phone-in host. It is to test, with mutual respect, to test the opinions of those who feel they have opinions that are worth disseminating. You would do it with Tony Blair, and you would do it with the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and so you would do it equally according the same respect, precisely the same respect, to listeners. Now, to not do that would be patronising. To allow Tony Blair to come on and say that, for example, the National Health Service is better than it's ever been before, to allow him to get away with a statement like that, which he wouldn't utter, of course, would be a heinous crime against journalism. But to allow someone to come on air and offer a set of opinions without any kind of validation whatsoever, especially if you know that those opinions might upset some listeners, to allow them to make their views and then to simply say, well, thank you so much indeed for coming on the radio and telling us that, that would be patronising. So if you want to be treated the same as the Prime Minister, then it's 01714121152. Stephen calls from Bromley. Stephen, you're on LBC. Morning.
Oh, hello, Tommy.
Hello,
I used to watch you on, was it Magpie, the children's show?
You may have done, yeah.
Yeah, Susan Stranks. Was that Susan Stranks?
Well, she was on the programme, in case anybody's interested. I doubt it, before I was on it. But,
was she? I remember Susan Stranks. Anyway, I digress.
You do?
The reason I was ringing is your exaltation of American... Well, the United States is a country made up of asylum seekers.
Absolutely. Refugees.
Yeah. So
every one of them.
You didn't mention what happened to the indigenous population, who are all on reservations, living very poor lives.
Refugees themselves.
Exactly. Because when the refugees became the majority, i.e. the English, Scots, Welsh, Irish, they chucked out the indigenous population and consigned them to the wastelands of the United States.
The point is this, Stephen, the refugees, the Native American Indians themselves were refugees from Eastern Europe.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you go back 50,000 years...
There's no reason why you shouldn't do that?
Well, I suppose if you want to.
Well, Stephen, what do you mean if you want to?
I'd
you have
recommend a very good book called The Trail of Tears.
Not interested. Nobody's going to read it. The point is this, you can't walk away from a simple fact of the matter. You can't dismiss the notion that before Columbus, or before the Welsh, if they're to be believed, discovered America, it was owned by people who had been there forever. They arrived, they populated, they colonized the United States, as we now know it, because they fled where they were.
Well, all right, if you want to put it that way. Then one group of refugees were persecuted by another group of refugees when they became the majority.
True. Perfectly true.
Right, well, I mean, if you assume that the English are a group of refugees from Central Europe, when the refugees that are arriving now become the majority, they will probably persecute us. And we'll end up on reservations.
Yeah, that's a cheap remark, really.
That's not a cheap remark.
It is.
If you look at human nature throughout the world, if you have a group that is powerful, they dominate and oppress smaller minority groups. It happens in Africa with tribes. It happens wherever you go.
Well, that's one view of history. Have you read any other books besides that one you recommended?
I've read quite a lot of books. I would recommend The Trail of Tears. It's
as a historian,
very PC. You'd enjoy it. It's very PC.
Not interested. I've never read a book on anybody else's recommendation.
Oh well, that's a very, very silly attitude.
It certainly isn't, because if I were to do that, A, I wouldn't get a chance to choose books of my own to read, and B, there's nothing better than going to a bookshop and coming out surprised. I've only ever been disappointed when I've read books that other people have recommended to me, and there's a good reason for that. The reason for that is because people recommend books to you because they want to try and change your view so that it's closer to their view. And I'm not interested in being a fish, although I can understand.
The Bible, then.
I can understand why you want to be a fisherman.
You've never read the Bible?
I was made to read the Bible when I was small.
It was recommended to you, wasn't it?
No, I was forced to read the Bible. That's different.
Well,
can you not see that distinction?
I can
Keep up.
see the distinction.
Keep up. Thank you.
But I still think that it was very silly not to take people's recommendations on books. You might learn something.
Exactly. You see, you're just trying to teach me to be like you, and I'm not interested. Yes, you are.
Like me. I don't want you to be like me. I like variety in politics.
Can you not see that your motive in recommending books to people is because you want them to follow you?
But the point I'm making is that this book I'm recommending is actually a very politically correct book. You'd probably love it.
Stephen in Bromley, trying desperately to do some cutting asides. Must see himself as Boadicea, riding through life with those scythes sticking out of his hubs, cutting people down without them hardly knowing it. Oh, look, my legs have gone. It must have been that woman going over the hill. No, it's Steve in Bromley. Not a hope. Sylvia calls from Tower Hamlets. Sylvia, you're on LBC. Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Tommy. It's great to hear you. Because not many callers seem to be on the side of the asylum seekers and refugees. I think a lot of trouble, I don't know if you agree, in Dover was caused by the BNP marches, which were allowed by the police, and they were very well protected by the police. I hope they don't allow any more marches like that, because they're against the refugees.
Now, I can't be absolutely certain that it was BNP. I have to say that.
Yeah. I was told, so, I just don't know. Like you, really, I suppose.
But we're quite right, aren't we, to... I'll tell you what, I am uncomfortable when official sources refer to those who found themselves in conflict with refugee youngsters at that fairground in Dover. I am concerned when official agencies refer to those British youths only as residents. Because the word resident to me gives me, in my mind, a picture of a whole slice of humanity, from Colonel Mustard, if you like, through a 2.4 nuclear family, round through to, I don't know, a couple of trailer trash, if you like. Okay, and I don't think those were the people who squared up to the refugees in that fairground in Dover at all. Do you?
No, I hadn't thought of that. No, that's worth thinking about.
It's power of words.
Tommy, aren't we all immigrants or descended from immigrants?
We are. We're agreed on that. Anybody with half a brain cell is agreed on that one. Thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you.
Word with Philip now, who's called the programme from Pinner. Philip.
Morning, sir.
Sir.
When the OBEs are being given out for radio presenters, I hope you're absolutely number one in the queue. These last couple of days have been absolutely fantastic.
It's kind of you.
To listen to everybody. You brought out a particular point which I found fascinating, was just how much space there is in this country. We went for a little toddle a couple of Sundays ago just to get out and about from London, and went up through Bedfordshire. I've never been up through there before and couldn't believe the amount of empty space. Very attractive. It's like you've got little towns dotted about all over the place. And it was so rural, you almost expected every few hundred yards to maybe find a guy playing a banjo on a fence post. But I'm sure you could lose people in this country and not even know that they were here.
No.
It's a lot of space. And perhaps we have a historical responsibility to nearly every nation on the planet, because we went rampaging around ruling the world, and a very, very few chickens are coming home to roost.
It's an important point. It is an important point. We can't escape our own history. Although the present generation who are looking to shape the world and its future, I don't think should be held too much to ransom, I'm sure you'll agree, by the crimes or otherwise, because we did show the Indians how to dig drains, I'm told, of those who created the greatest empire the world has ever known.
Yish.
Yish.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed.
And I do believe myself, I'm being married to a foreigner myself, because my wife came from South Africa, and I do think an infusion of foreign blood is a good thing. Some of the family live down in Somerset, near Chard.
Oh, interbreeding you're talking about here.
Well, they all sort of look the same, you know.
It's the same in Bognor.
Glassy-eyed sort of expression.
We need new blood.
Yes, a few foreigners are a blooming good thing.
Well, you think about it. You made a very good point here. If we don't have more and more people coming into this country, we're all marrying our own cousins if you go back far enough.
Oh, yes.
Hey?
Absolutely.
And what about that number, that statistic that you pick up when you're quite young and you think, oh, and then you forget about it, but nobody's refuted it, and that is that this gives you some idea of how much space there is in Britain. Is it still true that you could fit the entire population of the world on the Isle of Wight?
I think it is.
Have you heard that one?
I have.
And
It might be a bit of a tight squeeze now, but it's still possible.
The other thing you could do is get the entire Chinese population to jump off a table simultaneously.
Yeah.
And we're told this would knock the Earth's axis off its orbit.
Infinitesimally, but it would be the case.
Getting them to try to do it would be the fun.
Yeah, mind you, they're much more disciplined than we are. If you've got the English to do that, it would be hopeless.
Or do they have network broadcasting? It's the only way you could trigger that simultaneous 1, 2, 3...
It could be world jumping off a table day and see which nation does the best.
Been good to talk to you, Philip. I think we've pretty much tidied up that business now of Dover, and it's onwards and upwards. 017 412 1152. Steve Allen is next, and he's lurking somewhere. We'll find out what he's got up his sleeve in a minute.
11:52 a.m.
Steve Allen is here, and I have to say...
Steve
Allen, yes.
What's up his sleeve? Arms.
Oh. Yes, but surely 1 or 2 marked cards.
Up here? It's short sleeves.
It is. I noticed that. It makes you look like a cop. It makes you look like an American cop.
That's a thrilling thought to hang in your mind. Well, I don't know whether...
But I so enjoyed, particularly, your 10 to 11 slot yesterday.
Yes, well, it followed on from you.
I wanted to phone in, and I think that's always an acid test.
I think that's worrying.
Of good phoning.
You wanted to phone in?
I wonder whether I'd jump the queue if I got a chance to complain about your attitudes.
No, you wouldn't. Well, I didn't have... That was the a lot of people confused me with you. And one lady left a message on my machine saying that I had no right to call innocent callers racist. I didn't call anybody racist yesterday. In fact, that was the whole idea of it. I played the other card and just sort of sat on the fence.
You did. You were dishing out rope yesterday, weren't you?
I was dishing out a bit of rope, yes. But and people were hanging themselves.
Oh, baby, it was like Tyburn. It was like Tyburn.
Well, they're doing it again today, aren't they? And I didn't think that people want to talk about that. So I thought that we might talk about Paulie Yates and the programme last night. The political leaders in Bosnia, we've sent over millions of pounds worth of aid, and the political leaders have pocketed it. The hardcore sex videos that can be unleashed in Britain following this landmark case over pornography. At 11 o'clock, it's the MPs, Glenda Jackson, Evan Harris, and Howard Flight. And then best-selling author Charlotte Bingham at 12, her new novel, and actress Tina Russell about her new role in the British movie Julie and the Cadillacs.
Fantastic. Is Glenda Jackson at Westminster?
No, she's here.
Fantastic.
MP for Hampstead and Highgate.
Absolutely fantastic.
That's going to be good.
We did have a brief chat with her on the breakfast show a couple of weeks ago, just after she announced that she was leaving the transport job. And she actually sounded quite cuddly now that she's not a frontline politician.
Yeah, I don't think she worked particularly well. I think she'll be better off in another position.
I know what you mean. Steve Allen's after Douglas Cameron with the 10 o'clock news.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. Comment too if you wish. Even slap your legs and make a purchase from Ann Summers. But don't do nothing.